We've got a new guy joining us today. Fresh out of selection.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Frost Kamikaze, for the follow. Welcome to the Nuggets. It is your commander and dad, Rebel Red, here again on another Saturday evening. And with Saturdays comes Chill and Chat, where we just either react to some videos and talk about everything that's going on, or we just play a relaxing game, something where I don't have to think and just mess around and talk with you guys. For that, it'll probably be Fallout today. I will say the video that I have planned for the react today is going to be a little bit on the long side. It is by the wonderful Wendigoon, which his stuff is very informative and very entertaining. So I definitely recommend his channel if you want to learn a lot about just crazy events that have happened in America. His videos are a bit long, though. I will say that this video that I have waiting in the wings is an hour and 40 minutes long. So I don't know if I will get through all of it today. I have a feeling I will try to get through half of it and find a good stopping point where we can finish the rest of it next time. Because an hour and 40 minutes is literally over half of my stream. So we'll go along with the information being involved in his video, which if you didn't see the Twitter post, we are going to be reacting to the JFK documents, which, for those who may not be in the know, a very large chunk of all of the files and documents from the CIA and FBI have been made public regarding John F. Kennedy's assassination. There are a few things I believe that are still being held as quote-unquote national security. Yeah, sure, I guess it's probably BS, but there is, from what I have gotten as far as information, I have not watched this video yet, but I have watched other videos regarding the documents being released. And as far as I know, it is never outright stated who actually assassinated JFK, but it is pretty much confirmed from all the things that are still there that it was the government that did it. It was totally the CIA that murdered JFK because he was, for all intents and purposes, planning to completely defund the CIA. But that's not even the most juicy part of these documents. Oh no. There's a lot of stuff in these documents that talks about some of the other heinous and terrible things that the CIA has done, which, from what I've heard, JFK was totally in the right for getting rid of them. And I wish he would have had better people that he could trust to protect him, so that maybe today we wouldn't have the CIA anymore. Because from everything these documents go over, it basically confirms that it doesn't confirm that they have done anything, but it confirms that they have plans to do a lot of really heinous and disgusting things. Basically confirming that they have plans to start proxy wars, to create systems to make it harder on the population, to cause greater compliance, possibly a pandemic. Wink, wink. But yeah, a lot of stuff that is confirmed that the CIA had plans It does not confirm whether or not they implemented any of them, but they probably have. Because it's the government. And what do we say on my channel? Never trust the government, ever. So, without further ado, oh, and I will also mention, if you were not following me on Twitter, be sure to check it out because that's where I'm going to be posting the majority of teasers and information regarding the new model reveal on the 28th. I posted a little teaser video today, kind of showing off the model a little bit. Doesn't give a full picture. All you can see is the silhouette and the eyes, which the eyes are not too different from what you see now. Made a few tweaks here and there to make it a little bit more original and a little bit easier possibly to do design for. And you get to see my pearly whites in the video. But I'm going to be posting a lot more. I want to try to have something posted regarding the reveal at least once, if not twice a week. I do plan on posting a model reveal post in the very near future, possibly within the next couple days. So for anyone that wants to get a sneak peek at the model, oh, thank you, Dry Landfee, for the follow. Welcome to the Nuggets. Yeah, definitely check out the Twitter page to get all the new info regarding the new reveal, because it's not just going to be the new model that's going to be a part of it. We're going to have a whole new stream overlay with new transitions, a new theme music that I commissioned. I do have a teaser trailer planned. It should be done, at least one part of the trailer is done. They're making another one for me that has a silhouetted version of my model as like an even more of a teaser trailer. And it will have the new theme music included in it. So hopefully you guys will like that. And then when the debut happens, I do plan on having a way where you guys will have access to that song. I'm not really sure how I will do that. Probably Spotify, even though I have never done anything with Spotify, so I'm not really sure how that works. But there's a lot of fun stuff planned for the 28th. And I'm only talking about like maybe 40% so far of what's going to be in the new debut. But I hope you guys will enjoy it. But until then, we're here to react to some conspiracy theories. So let's see how terrible the CIA is. First of all, we will pause the music for a moment. And then we will go to here. All right, and for those just joining in, this channel goes by the name of Wendigoon. He is pretty popular in the like conspiracy, true crime, supernatural events, all of those things. He is very well known in those. A lot of his popular videos have to do with government conspiracies or cryptid sightings, as well as deep diving into a lot of lore of several different horror games. So if any of that piques your interest, definitely be sure to give Wendigoon a follow. I love his stuff. Honestly, would love to take part in a video with him sometime. Probably won't ever happen, but I can dream. But let's go ahead and get started. I did skip ahead a little bit because the first 4 or so minutes of the video are just kind of going over what's going to be in the video, which is going to be going over most of the documents involved with the JFK assassination. I mean, he kind of goes in depth on what parts he's going to go over in order, but we're just going to fly off the handle and just go straight into it. So let's go.
We are going to go ahead and get into it, but as always, thank you for watching. So first thing I want to get out of the way is there is a lot here, and I promise I have done my best. 60,000 pages is a lot, and it got into several moments where I was just reading stuff I had no idea what it concerned. Because a lot of these documents are out of order and just put together in one report. So
It's
it
kind
may
of a
be
jumbled
mentioning
mess.
names or dates that mean nothing to me, that in reality I would need 10 other documents across the CIA records to figure out what it's talking about. So I used a combination of documents that I found to be the most interesting
don't
or
mind me, I'm
pertinent,
also
as
eating
well
ice cream
as
while
several
we're
people
reacting to this.
online who were talking about interesting things that they found, and then figuring out what file they were talking about, then finding that original file, then figuring out how that connected to the whole. In other words, let this video serve as bullet points for interesting things in the files, but someone who is far more educated than I could come along and do a much better job connecting a lot of the threads, and this should really be viewed as a starting point for people who are looking to dive into this mess. And in the spirit of that, all of the records are housed at the National Archives website. So for all of the excerpts I'm reading, I'm going to display on screen the National Archives database number for that document. So if you want to read more about something or learn the context of something I'm talking about, you can just type it in and see it for yourself. So after wasting enough of your time, let's get into some of the information that I find interesting, starting with the thing everyone's wanting to know about, Oswald. So the main question surrounding Lee Harvey Oswald is, was he acting alone? Because a lot of his movements, especially right before the assassination, seem pretty suspicious. I mean, if he was a supposed madman with a rifle, what's with him traveling to Cuba and Mexico and trying to get back into Russia? And throughout the assassination investigations, the CIA denied any hard knowledge of what Oswald supposedly did in Mexico or Cuba, or what his travels were before the assassination. They had briefly mentioned that Oswald was a person of interest, but they never examined him too closely. Well, as we know now, that was a lie.
Basically,
in this
he was on
CIA
our
letter,
radar.
we see a report on someone named Valery Kostakov, who worked at the Soviet embassy in Mexico City. Specifically, it says, in September or October of 1963, Lee Harvey Oswald approached the Soviet embassy in Mexico City in an attempt to get a visa allowing him to return to the USSR. Kostakov, as a consular officer, handled this visa request. We have no information which indicates any relationship between these individuals other than for the purpose of Oswald's making his visa request. This raises an interesting question. If the narrative around Oswald is to be believed and he was simply acting alone, why was he trying to get back into the USSR a month before he shot the president? Also, while the document says it doesn't seem that Kostakov knew Oswald outside of this event, that Kostakov was just the agent Oswald so happened to talk to, they go on later into the report to kind of dog the guy a little bit when they say, while in Mexico, he was considered by some to be the most effective and dangerous of intelligence officers in Mexico. He has been described as being without morals, education, and manners. Shortly after his arrival in Mexico in 1968, he was arrested in front of a house of prostitution after becoming involved in a fistfight with some locals. Also, to clarify the timeline in other parts of the report, it says that he arrived in Mexico in 1961, left in 1963, and then returned in 1968. So that's why it said shortly after arriving. There's also a ton of other leads concerning Oswald that were investigated and are now public. Like, for example, there's a letter from a guy named Sergei Kazornono. And in a letter that he wrote on March 15th of 1978 to the British Embassy, he says, on July 18th, 1963, I was in London, England at the airport immigration office number 175. I had no visa immigration, placed me under house arrest. Mr. Smith in police uniform, Secret Service, brought me steak dinner and police officer interrogated me. He asked me what the embassy of USSR say. What did you heard in Vienna, Austria? I said, I have heard that one American defector, Mr. Lee Harvey Oswald, to Russia, and he returned to United States of America. This man, he preparing to kill to assassinate President John F. Kennedy. Now, the reason for the grammar being the way that it is because this guy's Russian, so English is a second language.
Obviously.
And he goes on through the rest of the letter to say that he was also told that Martin Luther King Jr. would be killed and that the person that is supposed to kill him, James Earl Ray, is in prison at that time. He also then says that he offered to take the truth drug to tell the truth and that he was tortured with mind drugs. And all of that information could be really cool or effective if it wasn't written a decade after all those things happened. If you want to know how 60,000
So
pages
convenient
got
that we didn't get it
released,
till
it's
now
because
when
the
it's not
majority
really
of them
important.
are that. A lot of this information has been redacted or kept out of the public's eye up until this point because it includes individuals who, like, no wrongdoing was found, or private information like addresses or social security numbers. Things that, by the way, are all public now. Like, any one of these people, if they were still alive, you could just drive to their house. But for every bit of good data, you have to wade through tenfold of the bad, which I guess is how the real investigation probably went. What's funny is this guy got a letter back that was pretty much just like, wow, that sucks. Anyway, also a ton of the files are just
Oh man, someone's going to try to kill the president and Martin Luther King. That's crazy. Anyway, they already knew that. They already knew that because they were planning it. So it was kind of like a cool story, bro, but we already knew that story. We're the ones who wrote it. Because fun fact, the family of Martin Luther King sued the government for his assassination, and they won. But of course, that's not going to be national news because that would admit that they were wrong. But yeah, it's basically confirmed that not only did the government assassinate a former president, but also one of the greatest leaders of the human rights movement of all time. I'm shocked, but not that shocked. Also, hightails. We're going over JFK's assassination. Fun times.
things like this, effectively paperwork. Like, this document is the Australian CIA messaging the American CIA to ask if America could withhold some of the information regarding Australia whenever this information goes public. There are, no joke, several files in here that are just the piece of paper that says the file is being moved somewhere else. But again, if it was related to the JFK files, it got released.
That's
now,
crazy.
This document related to Oswald raises an actually interesting point. It says that in 1991, a United States professor named E.B. Smith had several conversations with a man named Nakhonov. Nakhonov is deputy to the KGB director. The KGB is effectively Russia's CIA. In this internal CIA communication, which, by the way, not to be lame, but seeing words like temporary working copy, destroy after use, and secret on something you're reading feels kind of cool. According to this internal CIA communication, Smith said in section 5, quote, Nakhonov's first assignment from Bakhtin, he's the director of the KGB, was making arrangements for the KGB-CIA liaison relationship, which has now come into being, which that sentence alone opens a whole can of worms. But anyway, in preparation for one possible question which might be raised, Nakhonov personally reviewed KGB files to determine if Lee Harvey Oswald had been a KGB agent. He reviewed 5 thick volumes of files on Oswald. Nakhonov is now confident that Oswald was at no time an agent controlled by the KGB. From the description of Oswald in the files, he doubted that anyone could control Oswald, but noted that the KGB watched him closely and constantly while he was in the USSR. He commented that Oswald had a stormy relationship with his Soviet wife, who rode him incessantly. The file also reflected that Oswald was a poor shot when he tried target firing in the USSR. Now, while E.B. Smith can be assumed to be reliable, considering he is an American
Interesting.
professor that taught for a while in Moscow and is willing to give information about Moscow to the CIA. That doesn't mean that Nikonov had to tell him the truth. But some of the little details that Nikonov mentions indicates that he probably was, that Nikonov was interested enough to see if his agency had hired or enlisted Oswald to kill the United States president. The mention that the KGB was watching Oswald while he was in the USSR also makes sense, because he was an American Marine that defected to Russia and then left Russia to come back to the United States. So I'm sure they had their suspicions about him, just as the CIA had their suspicions about him, but we'll get to that. The mention that the details of the file indicate Oswald would be hard to control makes sense, considering he kind of seemed to be erratic, at least through a lot of the stories we know about him now. And of course, the mention of being a poor shot is kind of telling. Not long ago, I visited Dallas and went to the location of the shooting, and I do...
Oh man, the guy that was known for pulling off an impossible shot against the president was actually a terrible sniper. Makes you think. Probably wasn't actually him.
You have to admit it's not that hard of a shot, but to hypothetically fire 3 shots that quickly at a moving target required some degree of marksmanship. Also, for the record, the last time I talked about the JFK assassination to this degree was in one of the earliest videos on the channel. I proved the JFK conspiracy with a whiteboard, and I'm glad that you guys liked that video and it grew the channel. That means a lot. But to be honest, my standards for research then are nothing compared to what they are now. I've changed a lot of my opinions regarding the case and a lot of the logistics of it. I do think now firmly that Oswald was a shooter. My question is, was he the only shooter? And if he was a trigger man, who was he pulling that trigger on the behalf of? Was it himself or something else? So I don't read this last sentence saying that Oswald was a poor shot to mean Oswald wasn't a shooter. I read that to mean either himself or someone else invested to get him better. There's other things in the files that relate to Oswald and the JFK assassination, but you're going to need more context from other things mentioned in the files for them to make sense at this point. So we'll come back to that later. For now, I want to talk about some other things that came out of these files. Because to be completely honest, the wildest, craziest things that we have found out now have nothing to do with the assassination. See, when these assassination committees were doing their investigations into the CIA and the FBI, they wanted all of the information that related to agents who were involved in the assassination investigations, and they wanted all information regarding what the CIA was doing around the time. So that blew the lid on a ton of weird information. Now, again, the stuff that I am talking about today is the things that have come out over the last 2 weeks. But in the JFK files that started to get released in 2017, that's where we got information that a CIA agent had claimed to see Hitler in South America in the 50s, meaning that Hitler survived World War II. Or information about the CIA.
There's been even more information come out about that recently too.
Diplomats of other countries in order to gain their favor and feed them information. So many weird shadow tactics have been revealed because of the JFK files as a whole, but again, we're just talking about the things that have come out over the last couple weeks. I had to put a lid on this video somewhere. If I have to look at one more memo, I'm going to scream. So some of the most interesting information
honestly
relatable over the past couple weeks is everything related to Cuba. See, the committees wanted information about what the CIA was doing, and in the early 1960s, the CIA's main concern was Cuba. From the Bay of Pigs invasion to the Cuban Missile Crisis, the CIA was trying to find a way to get Castro out of power and to cripple the economy of Cuba so that they were no longer a threat. We know from declassified documents like Operation Mongoose that the CIA was trying to kill Castro and even attempted on a couple occasions. So while we already know that they did hate Cuba,
it's actually
now
one
we
of the
know
plots of Black Ops.
How they hated Cuba. In this CIA document, which, by the way you can tell who's actually making the document you're reading is by the prefix on the record number. So if it starts with a 104, it's CIA. If it starts with a 144, that's the NSA. If it starts with a 198, that's the Army, etc. Because sometimes the agencies will be speaking to each other, or it'll be a clandestine operation, so everyone's kind of talking at once. But to know who actually maintained the record, which matters, just look at the prefix for the record. But anyway, as a
And it's cool to know that too, because even a lot of game companies get information from like government entities to get more accuracy. That's kind of why I liked Modern Warfare 2019 so much, is their attention to detail in that game was pretty crazy. It was still a lot more action packed than the real thing, because it's an arcade game. I mean, let's be honest. But yeah, they show that in the game in the first mission, where you yourself play as Alex, a CIA agent working with MARSOC, which is basically the Marine version of like your Tier 1 operators like Navy SEALs or Green Berets, stuff like that. So yeah, it's not uncommon, and it, in fact, is probably incredibly common and happens quite frequently.
Lighter note before we get into the depressing stuff, this CIA informant, while describing things that happened in Cuba in point 10, says L1 talked about assassination of President John F. Kennedy, L1 being the informant. According to L1, in 1969, L1 personally saw Fidel Castro receive a group of U.S. radicals. Castro talked to them for 2 hours about why just one assassin could not possibly have killed Kennedy. Castro ordered a reenactment of the crime using his best marksman, and they could not duplicate what Lee Harvey Oswald supposedly did by himself. L1 said that 3 groups were involved in killing the president. 1 group of Cubans, 1 group of mafiosos, and a 3rd group of mercenaries. The 3rd group included a man with a Greek name. For one, Castro saying that one of the groups was a group of Cubans doesn't explicitly mean that Castro was involved with the assassination, because there were a bunch of groups of Cubans he had no control over or even directly opposed him. But that being said, it is hilarious.
I don't really think
that
Castro would admit that he planned to have him assassinated. That would just be a really bad idea.
Down in Cuba, like, yeah, there's no way he did that. Absolutely not. And then he gets his best marksman together to recreate the shooting, to say that it's impossible. This man he is literally me. Now we get into the more depressing stuff you probably expected, like lying to the American press. Because it had been suspected by many around this time that
They would never do that.
or otherwise legitimate organizations were either just CIA fronts or were allowing the CIA to operate through them. And of course, the CIA denied that, but as we see from internal memos like this one, they were lying. In this memo from the Assistant Deputy Director for Plans to the Deputy Director for Plans, in point 2, the Assistant Deputy says, early in April of 1968, the Office of the General Counsel made available to Central Cover Staff a copy of a letter and an attached list of organizations sent to the Internal Revenue Service by Mr. John Frappier of Ramparts Magazine. The letter, dated April 5th, 1968, had been furnished OGC through IRS liaison channels. The letter appended a list of 145 tax-exempt organizations and indicated that all were suspected of having been funded by or having cooperated with the CIA. So in other words, this journalist put together a list of 145 tax-exempt organizations that he thinks are actually just cooperating with the CIA, and he published it in Ramparts Magazine, but he also sent the list to the IRS, which, does he think that the IRS doesn't talk to the CIA? I don't know. Because sure enough, that's what happened. A liaison at the IRS sent it to the Office of General Counsel, who then sent it to the Central Intelligence Agency. It seems that the journalist wanted more information from the IRS so that he could confirm his suspicions on these groups being CIA operated. So what does the CIA say?
And I think a big part of that is, unfortunately, the press and most of the American population back then, especially back then, was a lot more naive and trusted their government wholeheartedly a lot of times. I think after Cuba and like the Vietnam War and things like that, trust has slowly, just a slow drip of distrust has kept going into the American populace till eventually majority of people now have a distrust of the government, which to me is a good thing. I don't believe that you should believe that your government is always 100% out to get you, because it's a very stressful life to be paranoid 24/7. But I also don't believe that you should trust that the government has your best interest at heart 100% of the time. It's probably barely even 50. So again, just don't trust them. Don't think that they're out to get you, but don't trust them. Ever. Always double check your sources, double check their sources. Make your own conclusions. Don't just let the government say, "This, we investigated ourselves and we say this is what happened." Because 99% of the time, that's just a bold-faced lie. Yeah. I wouldn't say that the government's always out to get you, because like 80% of the American population, they could probably care less about and don't even see them as a threat. So now if you're in like media or like a high grossing corporation that shows distrust in the government and tries to get stuff out, then you might want to worry about them being out to get you. So the paranoia might be valid there. But if you're just some crazy conspiracy dude that stays in his basement with a CV radio and a satellite VPN connection to the internet, you're probably the last thing that they're worried about. They're probably aware of you, but they really don't care, because you've already shown yourself as a crazy person, so no one's going to believe you anyway. So what do they have to gain from taking you out, even if you do know the truth? So don't let the paranoia drive you crazy.
Internally in this secret document. In point 4, they say, a review of available CIA data on the listed organizations has shown that 89 of them were at one time or another somehow associated with the CIA. It goes on to say only 2 of these are of current operational interest. These 2 activities and 45 organizations formerly of interest to CIA were mentioned in the American press during MH-DAL. Again, a lot of this stuff is internal code words that we don't have context for, so just pretend like you know what MH-DAL means. You can also see, and it's like this for a lot of the document, how
basically
MH-DAL
like MK
is
Ultra
written in brackets. That means at one point it was redacted. It was cut through. So earlier versions of this document probably released, but they just had the redaction. 42 other listed organizations, which were in fact associated with CIA, were not exposed during MH-DAL. We have found no evidence that 55 organizations on the list were ever directly or indirectly associated with CIA. So, hey, 55 of them? Knock it off. Oh, and then in parentheses, he says, because 2 of the names on the list are successive names for the same organization, the actual total number of organizations listed is 144 rather than 145. So, but then they go on to even
come on, give us some credit.
In point
It's
8,
not
they say, we cannot say with complete assurance that all 55 of the apparently innocent organizations on the Ramparts list, in fact, never had any agency ties. It's like, look, you may have been right about 89 of them, but 55 we have nothing to do with. Probably, I think. Thankfully, the document doesn't suggest that they kill the journalist or whatever, at least not in this document. Just ends and says the headquarters that were responsible are now made aware, no further action is required. But again, we have early whistleblowers for government involvement in non-government agencies being proven correct. In our next memo within the CIA, we're given information about something known as truth tapes. In 1965, it seems that the CIA was producing these recordings that were supposed to be from independent parties, but were, again, the CIA. And they would distribute these recordings to be played at radio stations in Latin America and North America as a form of propaganda. And in this memo, we hear an update about an office that's conducting this in New Orleans. It says the current program of INCA, which is the Information Council of the Americas, is primarily concerned with the dissemination of taped recordings of anti-communist material called truth tapes to certain radio broadcasting stations in Latin America and North America for use as a weapon against communist penetration in the Americas. And the rest of the document goes on to give status updates regarding the organization, but this is more confirmation of the CIA pretending to be voices of the people. I should also mention that a lot of this isn't any
Honestly,
new
I feel
news
like
for a ton of people. Especially
reacting to
people
this fits
who
if we're
have
going to
kept
play
up
Fallout
with
later.
government documents in the past several
'Cause
decades.
nothing screams
There's been
Fallout
several
like
documents and
communist
reports that have come out
espionage.
related to truth tapes. It's not like this is any huge new news. But what is huge is that this is, for one, coming directly from the National Archives, and there are now 0 redactions to this stuff. So things like names, dates, and addresses are on full display. And again, while a lot of this has come out in previous releases of the JFK files, new information is being added. So again, we're covering everything that's new this week. All right, here's where we get into the fun stuff. So this dispatch regards the Special Activities Report on J.M. Wave's relationship with Ann Carbon 1. J.M. Wave was a CIA post that was just south of the University of Miami in southern Florida. J.M. Wave comes up a ton of these documents because it was one of the closest CIA locations to Cuba. So it plays a major role in things like the Bay of Pigs invasion and the Cuban Missile Crisis. And Ann Carbon 1 is a code name for a journalist at the Miami Herald who was working with the CIA. What does the CIA say about him? Well, in the introduction to this paper, they say, the recommendation was made that J.M. Wave be given approval to contact the major South Florida news media in an attempt to work out a relationship with these news media which would ensure that they did not turn the publicity spotlight on those QBARC activities in South Florida which might come to their attention. QBARC is an internal reference to the CIA itself. So the CIA was communicating and making relationships with journalists so that the journalists would not talk about what the CIA was doing. Thus, when a relationship was established with Carbon 2, it was
So
carefully
the media's
cultivated
getting
in
paid
order
off.
that
No
JM
surprise.
Wave might be able to use this contact at the Identity 3. Identity 3 means a newspaper publishing or like news outlet, as a means of achieving the objective of having a relationship with the Identity 3, which would simultaneously ensure the security of JM Wave's operations and give JM Wave an outlet into the press, which could be used for surfacing certain select propaganda items. So not only to keep the news from talking about them, but to get the news to talk about what we want them to talk about. If anyone ever calls me a conspiracy theorist again, I'm gonna punch him. In point 2, it says, in this review, Carbon
I feel that. I feel that so hard. It's like, there's no telling how many conversations I've had with people I know about how blatantly obvious it is that all of these mainstream media channels get paid off by the government. And it doesn't matter whose side you're on. They do it for both of them. Because 99% of them all share the same dinner tables. They're all on the same team. They just give you the illusion that they're not, so you think you have a choice in who you're voting for. None of it's real.
2 pointed out that it was the policy of the Identity 3, again a news outlet, that it would take no action which would purposefully embarrass QBARC or its South Florida operations. So that is a supposedly freely spoken American press outlet saying that they would never do anything to hurt the CIA. As a result, if any embarrassing items relative to QBARC's operations in South Florida did come to the attention of the Identity 3, this material would be brought to Rootman's immediate attention. Rootman is a code for the CIA agent who's operating with them directly. The point was also made that Carbon 1 should not press for the obtaining of classified information, but he should be alert to steering tips which Rootman might furnish him on fast-breaking news stories. Carbon 1 indicated that he understood the frame of reference which had been outlined by Carbon 2. These are 2 journalists at the same place. This frame of reference has prevailed through JM Wave's relationship with Carbon 1 during the period of December of 1962 to March of 1964. So they can't ask for any classified information, but they need to tell the CIA when something important happens. It's so weird reading this stuff and kind of peeking behind the veil because they just say everything outright. Like in point 5,
So the media
it
can't
says,
ask them
"Operational
anything, but
support.
must tell them
On occasion,
everything.
AmCarbon-1 is used to carry out certain operational support tasks. In such instances, AmCarbon-1 makes his inquiries or carries out the required action within the context of his normal journalistic activities. The use of AmCarbon-1 for operational support tasks enables JM Wave to harness the investigative facilities of the Identity 3. Several examples of how AmCarbon-1 has been used in operational support tasks are outlined below." And it goes on to list a ton of useful information that has been passed on to the CIA through this asset. And some of this you may be thinking is fine. And there are some instances. Like there's a case where AmCarbon-1 told the CIA that there were reports of Cubans hiding missiles in caves near U.S. soil. So some stuff like that, it's like, I get it. I understand why the press would pass that along. But in other cases, it's just to cover their own skin. Like here it says that in October of 1963, AmCarbon-1 informed JM Wave about the flood of telephone calls which were being received at the Identity 3 relative to so-called Cubark vessels which were located in South Florida waters. And a couple things to note. For one, the reason that you probably don't want to be super chummy with these guys is because, as we're going to talk about in a bit, they were not always the altruist. They weren't doing a lot of this stuff to just look good in the press and help people, especially when it comes to Cuba. There were some wild things happening. And two, and I really mean it because all the names are declassified now, do not harass, I think all these people are dead, but do not harass the memory or anyone associated with these people. While, yes, a lot of this sounds bad, and I disagree with it, you have to understand that the CIA would not approach these people in a friendly manner. While I'm sure there were some cases of willing corroboration, when an organization like that comes up to you and says you're going to help them out, you kind of have to help them out. At least if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I would want to give them the benefit of the doubt, especially back then, because, I mean, the CIA has always been a powerful organization, for sure, but back then, it was like, if the CIA showed up at your door, it was basically like the boogeyman showing up. So, one, they were terrifying, and two, you didn't know what they were capable of or were willing to do. So, most of the time, they ask you to do something, you were probably going to do it, because you didn't know the lengths they would do to force you to do it anyway. And from a lot of stuff that happens to a lot of these people that unalive themselves, like, say, shooting themselves in the back of the head 4 times and it being declared and being unalived by themselves. And there's been stories of, like, not just the person that was trying to give out the information. They will not just go after them. They will go after family members, friends, whoever they have to get you to play ball. So for a lot of these people, it was probably just to protect themselves and their families. And I don't blame them for that. I mean, to be honest, if the CIA showed up at my door telling me I needed to do this, or this, or they would do something to my family, I would be inclined to believe that they would. And I honestly don't know if I would say no or not. Because I know I can't compete with the amount of intelligence and money and power that the CIA has. And I guarantee a lot of these news reporters don't either. So, yeah. I mean, nowadays, I don't want to give the media the benefit of the doubt. Because at this point, they've been doing it for so long that it's basically just second nature to them that they work with the government. When before, it was through threats and coercion that they would work with them. But now it's just like, it's just an additional bonus to their paychecks. So yeah. Back then, totally different to now.
want to maintain any public face or have your company maintain a public face. Point 7. Amcarbon-1 has been used successfully during the period covered by this report as a propaganda outlet through which items of interest to QBARC, the CIA, could be surfaced in the free world press. And then they list a bunch of cases of that happening. And what's so crazy about this, since everything is declassified now, at the end of the report, they just have a picture of the news article that just tells you it's the Miami Herald, and it gives like the author's name and everything. Like, it's so wild. There's some interesting field reports, like here an agent in Cuba says that a man named Jose Xavier Cortez is passing himself off as a priest when he's actually not one, and says some things like, in Cuba, the Knights of Columbus are well entrenched. Again, another rabbit hole for another day. There's a bunch of documents that just kind of expand on the level of espionage that the CIA has, like here where it says that there's going to be a meeting of communist sympathizers in Paris, and the CIA already has people there. I haven't seen it in the reports I've read, but I've heard people talking about the JFK files, and they mention a file somewhere that says at some meeting in France, or maybe it was within the French embassy, that there were more people there who were either CIA agents or CIA liaisons who were like paid off by the CIA than people that weren't. So in a French political meeting, more people in the room are with the Central Intelligence Agency than otherwise. Again, I think that came from one of the earlier dumps of information in the JFK files, but regardless is insane. There's also,
and I think that was kind of the same thing that happened with the Ruby Ridge case. For those who don't know what that is, it was probably one of the first biggest fuck-ups of the ATF, where they basically entrapped a guy into making an illegal firearm and then killing his son and wife because they were trying to get an in with a local, basically a local cult. That turns out that there were already plants in that church. Like, I'm pretty sure it was like 30 to maybe even 50% of the congregation of that cult were plants. So there was no reason to even be involved with that family and get them killed. But we know the government likes their screw-ups and not admitting that they did it. But anyway.
Also some documents like this one that show you the National Archives history of this stuff, where it goes from being accepted to some parts being redacted to some parts being unredacted, and eventually to the release we have now. Now, there are some internal memos that give an idea of what the CIA was thinking during a lot of these historic events, why they were so paranoid. This intelligence report comes from J.M. Wave to the director of the CIA. That is information they gathered from an agent stationed in Cuba. The agent says that on October 11th, 1963, again in Cuba, 6 large trailer trucks entered Torrens, and on October 9th, 10 more of these large trailer trucks entered the base. An unidentified driver of a vehicle traveling behind one of the trucks reportedly observed tube-like objects which protruded at least 1 meter beyond the truck bed of one of the trailers, when by chance the wind blew to one side of the tarpaul covering the trailer's cargo. And considering that this base in Cuba was suspected of having surface-to-air missiles, the CIA thought that Cuba was putting together a larger missile array, supposedly to use against the United States. So of course the solution to that, as you could imagine, is to threaten the Miami Herald. Speaking of weird things that the CIA did involving Cuba, this one is
genius
wild.
planning.
So
there.
For context, in May of 1959, the new China News Agency opened an office in Havana in the El Medico building, which is occupied partly by business concerns and partly used for residential apartments. So China puts a news agency in Havana inside of a building that has some apartment rooms in it. Well, the CIA can't let that happen, so it says, shortly thereafter, the Havana station, talking about the CIA station in Havana, obtained the concurrence of Ambassador Bonzel and Miss Carolyn O. Stacy, an embassy employee, to mount an audio operation against the new China News Agency through the wall of the adjacent apartment in which Miss Stacy lived. So in November of 59, it says they installed a microphone and tape recorder inside of Miss Stacy's apartment to listen to the news agency next door. But by 1960, the Chinese news agency had expanded to more parts of the apartment building, and I guess the CIA's microphones couldn't hear that far. So a case officer named Brian Mills goes down, and he rents a room that is not next to the Chinese operation. It's above it and I guess further across the room. So after he rents that room, he puts a team in that room to listen down on what the news agency is doing. And it says that a group of technicians go down and installed a probe microphone and tape recorder in the apartment obtained by Mills over the NCNA office. About this time, the equipment was removed from Miss Stacy's apartment with the exception of the plastic probe, which was left in the wall and plastered over. So they have enough stuff on top of the news agency. They don't need Miss Stacy's room next to the agency anymore. As an additional security precaution to provide a safe haven, and after consultation with the acting chief of station, a key to an apartment in the same building leased by Mrs. Marjorie Lennox, an embassy secretary, was obtained. Mrs. Lennox was told that access to her apartment was needed for photographic surveillance purposes. So they find someone else who is staying in the building and get her to give them a key for photographic purposes, I guess assuming that they need to take photos of something across the street or whatever, not knowing that it's actually so they can spy on other people in the same building. So they're lying to even the people who are giving them a safe haven. But then things get complicated because it says that the owners of the building were canceling subleasers' contracts and recalling leases. So in other words, they'd probably have to vacate the space soon. So they decide, well, if we can't be in the room, we'll just install transmitters in the room, and then we'll just set up a listening post nearby, and someone else will be living in that space, but we'll still be spying out of it. So they send another 3-man team to Havana to install all this stuff. But then on September 14th at midnight, someone who, I'm not kidding, their name is Christ, was one of the technicians working on the apartment, says, failed to keep a scheduled appointment with Neat. At 1 a.m. on the 15th of September, the apartment of Mrs. Lennox was entered into and searched by Cuban authorities, and she was taken into custody. So the first girl who they were using as a listening post originally, she gets arrested because I guess they get privy to what's going on here, the Cuban authorities. But then it says at 3:40 the next day, September 15th, Neat, the stay-behind agent, and his wife were picked up by the Cuban authorities and detained. So everyone who was installing these microphones got arrested. Christ failed to have an appointment with Neat, and therefore Lennox was arrested. Completely
especially in a communist country, you're screwed.
Standards. And at the time of writing this, the agents are still under arrest. So I think Neat's actually a typo. I think it's
probably just left them
but
there.
I'm going to keep saying Neat. And point 8, it says, according to articles in the Cuban papers, the 3 technicians were arrested while in the apartment over the NCNA office and completing the installations of the equipment. The press article adds that the keys to Mrs. Lennox's apartment was found on one of the technicians who identified the apartment to which it belonged. All Cuban press releases have referred to the men by alias and have not identified them as government or agency employees. So thank God. They can be in jail, that's fine, but as long as they don't know we hired them. It is unclear at present what story has been agreed upon by the technicians and station personnel to be used in the event that they were caught. While being interrogated with Neat, Christ indicated that Neat was his boss, and Neat consistently denied any knowledge as to why he was being held. The sublease for the apartment in which the men were caught is in the name of the stay-behind agent, with the original lease being in the name of Mills, the FE Division's case officer. So everything's like 5 degrees of separation removed, so it doesn't tie back to the agency. So a lot of the rest of the document talks about what's to be done with these agents, because they're effectively being charged with espionage against China, and the CIA is talking internally about they don't really know if they can do anything for them without, revealing that the CIA was involved, and they can't let that happen because then that's like, an act of war. There's a funny note at the end where it says, insofar as the families are concerned, one of the technicians is a bachelor presently on home leave between 2 tours in Japan. His father, a cook in a diner in the Boston area, has been contacted by the Office of Security, and he will get in touch with security if he receives any inquiries on the matter. So it's like, okay, we've notified the one's dad. The other one, it says in point 13, the wives of the other 2 technicians have been told what has happened and are being contacted at least once daily by TSD staffers and their wives who have been briefed on the situation. A conference with the two wives was held on September 19th to go over the whole situation and determine if there was any personal problems on which the agency could be of help. For the time being, the wives are telling their neighbors that their husbands are on a trip. The story will be adjusted depending on what course of action the Cuban government takes, whether the aliases remain unbroken, and whether recognizable photographs of the individuals are released to the press. The two wives so far have been taking the bad news exceedingly well. Hey, so we hired your husband to go set up a listening post at the Chinese embassy in Cuba, and they both got arrested. And we can't really do anything about it because, like, oh no, the CIA, am I right? So if you could tell all of your neighbors that they're on vacation or cheating on you or something, I don't know. And we'll keep doing that lie unless the Cuban government posts their face, and then we'll say they're like traitors or something. Is that okay? And the wives are like, yeah.
That's wild.
This is so insane. I swear. Like, if so much of the stuff in here is like, if you wrote it into a movie, it would be too unbelievable. There is an attached reply that talks about the task of getting these guys out of custody. You can make half the stuff in this document
into a movie now, and people would think it's
so corrupted, it's hard to read.
Ridiculous.
In Mission, I believe it says the 145th or 1045th operational evacuation and whatever group provides black air transportation something to CONUS, the continental United States, to the designated area. So it sounds like they were trying to do a black air operation, which essentially means an off the books air operation to get these guys out of Cuba. So it looks like from the skewed text that a flight out of Mexico was being
at least
used.
they were trying to save them.
Text, it says that they're putting together a C-45 to transport these guys out of Cuba and then get them back to the United States in 15 hours.
It's probably just to make sure they didn't spill the beans.
Just leave them there for whatever that's worth. I don't know how they got them out of custody and onto a runway to get into a C-54 to get to Mexico, but whatever. Documents like this kind of give you an idea into what the CIA was doing in the 50s and 60s, and it's also just a really wild story that would be hard to believe had it not come directly from the CIA's own office. Because from using people's rooms to spy on people in the building and then having these secret flights to get people out of the country, it's really wild stuff. It'd be cool if they were, cool. Some documents like this one just indicate that CIA had plants near people like Che Guevara, as you could probably imagine. Similar to the thing mentioned earlier about Rampart doing a piece on companies that are actually CIA fronts or have CIA ties. This document talks about a business called Ace Marine Survey Incorporated that is actually a JM Wave cover facility. In the description for this business, it says this is a Florida corporation established by and under the control of JM Wave and certified to do business in Florida. Ace Marine Survey Incorporated was formerly known as Ace Cartography Company, a corporation which had been certified to do business in Florida on the 11th of June, 1962. This corporation was amended on November the 4th of 66 to its new name, Ace Marine Survey. Ace Marine Survey is engaged primarily in marine research, including the study of marine life and testing marine equipment. However, its general provisions permit it to perform almost any corporate function. Use. JM Wave use of the corporation is to provide cover for a maritime vessel, the MV Sonora. Corporation provides status cover and payrolling of the agents assigned to the MV Sonora and the safe area or...
I'll pause it for the ads. We will wait. 3 minutes is a long time to wait, but we'll pause it. But if anything does get missed in ads, the VOD for it will be posted on YouTube pretty much as soon as the stream is over. And howdy, Stoner. Welcome in. I don't know why... Oh, never mind. I actually do know why Sound Alert didn't play. It's because I don't have the widget on this particular screen. Let's see... Okay. We will just go ahead and add those. There we go. Now they should come up. No problem. But yeah, everything that is in this document is just so crazy that if it wasn't actually released by the government, you would think it's just some kind of crazy fan fiction. And while we're on an ad break, I want to test to see if the heater is working, because the basement did flood last night and the heater was a part of it. I want to see if it still works because I'm getting kind of cold. Oh, looks like it's still working. I mean, I wouldn't expect it to be broke. I guess we're back from the ad break. Sorry. While we were in the ad break, I was grabbing a space heater because it's getting kind of cold in here and making sure it still worked because the basement flooded again. But hopefully, going forward, that should not happen anymore because we finally had a sump pump installed yesterday. I actually put it in yesterday. And once it was installed and put into where the flooding has been happening, it got rid of like 90% of the water that was in the basement within like 30 minutes. So I would say it's working, and working pretty darn well. I'll just have to make sure that I keep tabs on it to make sure that the lift is still working on it, because it has a pressure switch on the sump pump, which most people would recommend over the digital ones, just because it's a lot harder for something like that to not work when it's literally working off of gravity or I guess physics, where it has a little plastic tube connected to it, and as soon as the water hits it, it's full of air, so it will inevitably float. And then once it gets to a certain point in that water, then the sump pump kicks on, drains all the water out within a few seconds, and then shuts itself off once the little plastic level hits the bottom. So it's working great. I still had to do a little bit of cleaning yesterday, and probably will need to do a little bit more today, because there's still a few spots that have water standing in them because it wasn't able to reach into the laundry room where the sump pump is. So I'll just have to take a shot vac and vacuum that up, and then possibly hook up a heater to help dry the area out. But no longer flooded, and hopefully shouldn't be flooded anymore. Fingers crossed. But we'll get back into the video.
Berthing site from which the vessel operates in the performance of its ostensible business. It goes on to say that the corporation was providing status cover and payrolling for 10 Cubans as of January 31st, 1967. So we have records of a business that publicly looks like a center for marine studies, but in reality is just so the CIA can have boats near Cuban waters. And the 10 people that work there, if anyone was to investigate it, looks like they are actually payrolled by the company and everything is straightforward, when in reality, everything is CIA. There's letters like this about the CIA internally checking up on people who have some degree of influence but seem to have communist sympathies. Like, here's a letter internally about someone named Courtwood, the son of an attorney named Fosterwood, who it says appears to be actively engaged in the organization of a local chapter of the Fair Play for Cuba Committee. So again, if someone was suspected of having communist ties, the CIA was doing checkups on them. Here's a document where a CIA agent or operative was tailing someone, and the person they were tailing threw a receipt in a trash can, so the agent dug out the receipt and then made record of it. So here's an interesting file that doesn't really have to do with the CIA or like things around the assassination, but it's just a folder about someone named Abram Shays. But then there's actually a note regarding the House Select Committee of Assassinations, which was the committee that was put together to review the assassinations of JFK and MLK. And they have a note attached that says, a review of the House Select Committee on Assassination volumes did not surface an Abram Shays, but an Abraham Shays, a legal advisor to the State Department, who maintained that at the time Oswald received his visa to enter Russia from the Soviet embassy in Helsinki, normally 1 week would elapse between the time of a tourist application and the issuance of a visa. It would appear that Abram and Abraham are not identical to each other. Betty Lichtenfield of the House Select Committee reviewed the file on August 17, 1978, and that this guy was a Harvard Law School professor who attended a Pugwash conference in Munich in 1977. So to show how thorough the House Select Committee was, this guy isn't even the same guy who they're looking for. They're looking for a guy who made one statement that Oswald should have taken longer to get his visa. And then there's this other guy who has a similar name who they still put the whole report on and turned it over and said it's probably not relevant, but just in case. Again, it's for reasons like this that there are so many files. There's a letter here from an anti-Castro Cuban guerrilla fighter.
A lot of the files are probably
prison,
nothing burgers.
And he wrote a letter requesting more money for guerrilla forces, indicating, that
appreciate him going through all the
CIA
work
was
to find the stuff that's
guerrilla
actually
forces
important.
in Cuba, even though they historically denied that kind of thing a lot. And would you look at this, a document that details a shipment of 20 pistols, 6 submachine guns, and 1 bazooka, which is cargo that was dropped off to Cuban guerrilla fighters. And then a note at the end that says, also report 2 successful drops. Each drop consisted of 63 submachine guns. So would you look at that, money and guns going to Cuban fighters, even though publicly they were very against that sort of thing. There's one document in here somewhere. I think I lost it, but
wouldn't be the first time they've sent guns to another country and then said they would never do that.
It was over maintenance and attaching a rear sight to an FAL rifle, which an FAL rifle is a rifle that is used by a lot of like European forces and like South American countries around this time, but the United States never adopted. So why would the United States have things related to the operation
Submarines
of the
technically
rifle?
have
Probably
anchors.
so they could send weaponry like that to places like Cuba and it not be directly associated as a United States shipment, or something like that. What do I know? Here we get an interesting memo from within the CIA relating to someone named John Garrett Underhill, and specifically an article from Ramparts concerning him. Ramparts was really testing the CIA's patience, it would seem, around this time. So the CIA memo quotes the Rampart article.
Oh, you'll definitely
by
see a
saying,
lot if you stay
"The day
up for
after
this
the
video.
assassination, Gary Underhill left Washington in a hurry. Late in the evening, he showed up at the home of friends in New Jersey. He was very agitated. A small clique within the CIA was responsible for the assassination, he confided, and he was afraid for his life and probably would have to leave the country. Less than 6 months later, Underhill was found shot to death in his Washington apartment. The coroner ruled it suicide. A researcher and writer on military affairs, he was on a first-name basis with many of the top brass in the Pentagon. He was also on intimate terms with a number of high-ranking CIA officials. He was one of the agency's unpeople who performed special assignments. At one time, he had been a friend of Samuel Cummings of Interarmco, the arms broker that numbers among its customers the CIA and, ironically, Klein Sporting Goods of Chicago, from which the mail-order Carcano allegedly was purchased by Oswald. So all that to say that Rampart ran an article saying that John Underhill's death a month after the Kennedy assassination was suspicious. Now, a bunch of people have highlighted this, the fact that these lines appear in a CIA
You nailed it right on the head,
there's
South.
CIA admitting that they
Just like their
unlocked
bullets.
this guy or whatever. When no, that is just the CIA quoting the article that said the CIA did it. It goes on
Water
to say
leak
the
has been
verdict of
taken
suicide
care
in
of.
Underhill's death is by no means convincing.
You just missed
His
me
body was
explaining it,
found by
actually.
a writing
I will
collaborator,
explain
Asher
more
Byrnes of the
in
New
a second.
Republic. He had been shot behind the left ear, and an automatic pistol was under his left side.
I'm going to let this
Odd,
get to the
says
hour
Barnes,
mark, and I'm probably going to
because
pause
Underhill
it to
was
watch the rest of
right-handed.
it next time.
Barnes thinks the pistol was fitted with a silencer, and occupants of the apartment building could not recall hearing a shot.
That was
Underhill
correct, though.
obviously had been dead several days. So no, the CIA is not weirdly wording this to talk about themselves in the third person and imply they might have had something to do with it. Again, they're just quoting the article. So then that quote within this memo is replied by a check of what the CIA knows about John Underhill. They talk about his military career some before saying, a CIA memo of February and October 1949 show that there was interest by the New York office of the OO Contacts Division in using subject as a contact for foreign intelligence. Name checks were conducted with various military members of the intelligence community, but these yielded insufficient information, and OO was advised that contact should be developed with caution on a limited basis, and that subject was not to receive information classified higher than confidential. So the original Rampart article is saying that Underhill had very close, strong connections to the CIA, but the CIA's memo here is saying that in 1949 we checked him out for it, but evaluated that we couldn't give him super secret stuff and could only use him in a limited capacity. And then talking about Cummings, the arms dealer, the CIA's like, yeah, we bought stuff from him, and they're ours, and when we sell them, we'll keep the money. It's like, that part's true. And at the end it says, it is noted that Underhill, Cummings, and Inter-Armco have not appeared to date in any press or classified reports of the Garrison investigation in New Orleans, with the tenuous exception of the Ramparts article cited at the outset of this memo. So this is basically a memo of the CIA being like, hey, this newspaper says that we killed this guy. Did we kill this guy? I can't find anything. Did we kill this guy? But no, internally, they're like, Ramparts is legend. We did this.
They have to ask that. We
have on him, and he hasn't appeared anywhere else. Now, again, I mentioned all this.
How many people do you kill that you have to be like, did we kill that guy? I don't know. We kill a lot of people.
It's not what it's saying. They're reviewing an article that said that they killed someone. Now, I'm not bringing this up to say that the CIA didn't kill Underhill. They very well might have. But if they did, they didn't write it down on a piece of paper to be passed around and then released in 2025. Look, I understand these executive orders are meant that all the information is now made public, and that's really cool and all, and I appreciate this stuff. But if there was actually a piece of paper that said we shot this journalist, former agent, whatever, in the head, that would never see the light of day. I doubt anyone would even write that down to begin with. So I'm not saying they didn't do it. I'm just saying this memo isn't saying that they did it. Also,
they probably did.
Of things that people are saying is in here that aren't really, I should probably mention the whole Israel thing. Now, there are some excerpts from the files that have been released that mention Israel. One of them is right here. So again, the JFK files are a compilation of any internal document that has anything to do with Kennedy. And this comes from an investigation that was happening in 1998. In 1998, the CIA was investigating this guy, and they had bugged his house in Cairo, Egypt. And in this transcript, we have a conversation between what I believe is a covert operative, or effectively an undercover agent, who is talking to the guy they're spying on. It says that the agent apologized for not phoning. Subject replied that the agent could call at his home anytime unannounced. He understood the agent's aversion to phones and added that Ethiopians tap diplomats' office and home phones, which is funny because he is talking to an undercover CIA agent. Yeah, those Ethiopians really like to spy on people. During conversation with agent, subject turned on tape player for sound masking and explained his home had not yet been tested for bugs. And then, this is so funny, in parentheses, the CIA typed, a simple test is turn off all the appliances and check the electric meter.
Probably like an XM4 or an MP5.
Perhaps it's the subject who was saying that, but the fact it's in parentheses, I choose to believe that the CIA in their own memos, like, if you wanted to find our bugs, you could just turn the lights off. Subject phoned spouse in Cairo and had agent speak with her. Subject gave agent 2 small gifts. Subject's brother-in-law is no good. He asked his father-in-law for money. Saudi attach weighty A. Saudi may be the Saudi intel officer in Addis, but subject is not yet sure. Israel is no good. Israel was behind the JFK assassination. Subject cheated on his wife.
I don't even know when the MP5 was.
And then he describes his affair.
Released.
It says, owner of Concord nightclub smuggles mercury, has good connections among Israelis and Ethiopian government. So this is a conversation with a guy that the CIA.
That's one thing I don't do a good job of weapon knowledge is
because
knowing
he mentions the JFK assassination. And this guy, in the midst of talking about how he doesn't like his brother-in-law and how he's only cheated on his wife 3 times, he says that he thinks Israel killed Kennedy. And again, this entire thing is just an internal document talking about spying on him. But people have been taking this screenshot and posting it around to say, oh, look, Israel killed Kennedy just because this guy in Egypt says they did. There's actually another document about this dude. In another conversation with an undercover agent, it says agent raised the terrorist killing of U.S.
Swedish K.
diplomatic personnel in Karachi on the 8th of March to gauge Lashin's response. Lashin being the guy that they're talking to. Or at least I assume this is the same guy because it's in the same string of documents and seems to be in the same location at the same point in time. Everyone gets new names in each document you look at, so who knows. But anyway, the undercover agent raised this political point to see how Lashin would respond and says, after launching into a homily
Carl
about
Gustav.
how the prophet had called for mercy and decency by warriors in the treatment of civilians, Lashin went on to spin a series of typically paranoid Arab conspiracy theories. He suggested that the assassination of JFK and Anwar were somehow the work of the Israelis, who always sought to disrupt good relations between the U.S. and Egypt. He suggested that the Israelis liked to play the fundamentalist card whenever pressures mounted on them to make concessions, and he argued that the Israeli Mossad had been behind terrorist attacks in Egypt as far back as the 1950s. So again, both of those excerpts, if you see them out of context, are just this guy in Egypt speaking to an undercover agent about his opinions. Also, I'm just assuming the agent's undercover because this guy's talking about wiretaps and stuff like that. He could have known he was speaking to the CIA. I don't know. Again, all of this stuff is out of context because it's just thrown in if it relates to the JFK assassination. So I don't have the full story around who this dude was. Or
Pretty
anything
much
like
any
that, but I
document
wouldn't
that has
exactly
his
call
name on
him
it is
a credible source for
has
information
been released,
to say
so it could
that
literally
Israel
be
killed Kennedy.
anything.
Another source that gets passed around about Israel's involvement comes from James Angleton. James Angleton was a CIA agent who testified at a lot of the assassination hearings and things like that. And internally, they say he has numerous foreign sources and channels for developing information. The primary source is the Israeli Intelligence Service. It goes on after this to say that Angleton has independent sources in the intelligence services of France, Italy, Greece, and Great Britain, and on occasion he utilizes sources in the Vatican. So Angleton has people everywhere, but he primarily operates in Israel. I believe in other documents, or like in other information that's come out not in the JFK files, Angleton oversaw Russian influence within Israel, so he was undercover within Israel to see like if the Soviets moved people or weapons in and out. So after Angleton provides a lot of his information, again, this is pre-assassination, 1954, Angleton is notified that a lot of the information he's gathering is going to be shared with other government departments, and Angleton requests that they withhold all of his information concerning Israel, because in 1954, Angleton was still an undercover agent within Israel and wanted that information kept very close to the chest. The memo says he further indicated that he desired the above method of designation in connection with correspondence dealing with Israeli intelligence matters. With regard to Bureau reports concerning Israeli matters, Angleton advised that such material is being retained under his personal supervision and control. It goes on to say he explained that he is involved in several sensitive projects such as Israeli intelligence, and if his identity were known to the other agencies, the security of CIA operations could be prejudiced. So then later in 1965, when information regarding Angleton is being gathered, it says this information for the most part emanated from a liaison arrangement with CIA maintained with the Israeli
Used to the heavy
Intelligence
water.
Service
Yeah, we
and
get
from other sources
pretty hefty
under the
rain here
control
too.
of Angleton. But a bunch of people are pulling this that says request for Israel information beyond to say that Israel had something to do with the assassination, which for one, it'd be crazy if they wrote that down. If like they knew that Israel killed Kennedy and they wrote down like Israel killed Kennedy, but mark out the Israel word. It's just Angleton saying he doesn't want his undercover operations made known to all government agencies. The only thing relating to Israel that actually has any meat to it is this one. So this memo is regarding a comment that was made to an ATF agent the day before the Kennedy assassination. After the Kennedy assassination, an ATF agent who was investigating arms deals down in Cuba and like southern Florida says that a man named Echeverria allegedly made a comment the day before the assassination of President John F. Kennedy that, quote, "We now have plenty of money. Our new backers are Jews. As soon as we or they take care of Kennedy,
That's a
Now, this
crazy
is one arms
statement.
dealer in Cuba who said this offhandedly. I don't know how a Cuban arms dealer would know if Israel was planning to kill the president. But this was a comment that the CIA logged as suspicious, and we don't know if they looked into it or if the document is out there somewhere to elaborate. I couldn't find it. The main reason it was so hard to find this document is because this isn't from the JFK files. This is a file that was released years ago with the initial investigations into the assassinations. So this is old news, been out a really long time. But this is the one thing related to Israel that actually has some weight beyond what someone else said about their opinion regarding Israel. I understand a lot of people have issues with the Israeli government, especially right now. But regardless of how you feel about him, you have to understand when Kennedy was shot, the country had only existed for 15 years, which would be a crazy short amount of time to go from starting existing to shooting the president of the United States. Now, there are a couple of nations that were really afraid
Stinger.
of getting mentioned in these
Nice.
reports, and they're not Israel. So in 1996, right before 97, when they signed and said all the informations regarding John F. Kennedy are to go public, it seems that internally information about this was shared with other governments just to let them know that this stuff is going to be publicized. And as soon as this is announced, we have a memo here from Tokyo where it says, please incorporate the following into the talking points to be used in the presentation to the JFK Assassination Records Review Board. Ambassador Mondale, the embassy and the station strongly oppose release to the public of any reference to the existence of a CIA station in Japan. Such action could have adverse consequences for U.S.-Japan relations at a time when a number of difficult security and economic issues remain unresolved. It also would risk reigniting earlier controversies over alleged CIA wiretapping of the man who is today the prime minister and over past CIA funding for the Liberal Democratic Party. Public confirmation would, without a doubt, disrupt cooperation with Japanese liaison services on important counter-terrorist and counterintelligence cases by making the station the object of greater public and possibly official scrutiny. It would lower the confidence of existing and new sources in our ability to protect their identity and security. It says after that, the Japanese government does not publicly admit that it collects intelligence and, as a corollary, does not admit to having liaison relationships with U.S. intelligence agencies. Tokyo avoids public acknowledgement because it knows that intelligence collection is anathema to the left wing of the Japanese political spectrum, and any admission would give the left new opportunities to attack the Liberal Democratic Party, which was the ruling party from 55 to 93 and is today the party of the Prime Minister and the leading party within the ruling coalition. And it goes on to say that Japan and the CIA agents in Japan are like, hey, don't bring up the Japan thing. Apparently at the
let's not
time,
talk about that.
I guess Japanese
that under the rug.
citizens just
It's not
didn't
important.
know that they could be spied on by the government as they were being spied on by the Japanese and United States government. Similarly, there are a ton of documents of the Australian Central Intelligence Agency pleading for the United States to not release information about their records or spying on people. I don't know what the Australian CIA was hiding, but there's like half a dozen in here that are basically them going, please, 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 please. Which it's funny because now not only is whatever records they were afraid of getting out published, but their letter asking them to not publish it is also published. Some interesting documents like this one gets passed around that
So
defectors from
everyone's
Castro's
government
regime
is
had been
spying on them.
executed.
What a
Documents like
surprise.
this are entire dossiers on informants who have fled or have quit contacting the CIA, who the CIA expects to be defective. And it's insane how much information they have on people. They have details about their money issues, about marital issues, about previous employment, about potential employment. You have documents like this from 1958 that indicates the CIA knew so much about what Che Guevara was doing. They knew explicitly where him and his guerrilla fighters were and what part of the country they were moving through at any given time. Again,
All right, I think we're going to stop that video right there, and we will finish that off next week, next Saturday, because there's still another 40 minutes left of that video, and I don't want my entire stream being reacting to the documents. But just from what he has read off, it is crazy. Because it's like, not only is our government obviously spying on us, but they know that all of the other countries are spying on their people. And their governments are like, don't let anybody know, please. Please. For the love of God, don't let them know. So chances are, they still are. I mean, this was back in, like, the 60s. So not only are they still definitely doing it now, but technology is advanced to where they can spy on way more than they could back then. It's like, in that one, it was like relationships, job opportunities, previous employment or unemployment. Nowadays, it's like they could literally see they could see what I'm doing right now. They could be looking in my camera and seeing my actual face right now. And I would have no way of knowing. Which is why whenever I am not streaming, I have my camera covered. It's not that I haven't any secrets, it's just that they need to mind their own business. World seeing NSA go Bert. Yeah. You have no secrets. Any camera that you own that has an internet connection, they can get access to. Any phone that you have that has cell service, they can pick up the microphone. And it's not even if they can, they are. Are they monitoring everything you do 24/7? Absolutely not. Do they probably check everybody on a routine? Definitely. Goes your search history. Oh yeah, they probably know all about that. So yeah, if you have anything incriminating that you've been searching on your Google search history, they probably already know about it. And don't think incognito mode is going to save you, because it's not. Honestly, probably yes. Because I actually think that's how they have found out locations of different terrorist organizations or terrorist leaders, is that a lot of those groups will communicate between each other through game chats. Usually they will pick very niche, unpopular games as ways of communication. So PlayStation Live Chat might not be that far off. They're probably monitoring that too. You never know. It's not happening 24/7, but the one day that you say something that's sus about the government, and that could be the day that they decide to check in on you. Being arrested for treason and terrorism from Insurgency Sandstorm. I wouldn't go that far. That's just gamers being really great voice actors. That's just a common theme there. But that's where we're going to stop for the JFK documents, at least for right now. And then we're going to continue with Chill and Chat Saturday with some more Fallout, as per the usual. And let me go ahead and change my game while I'm thinking of it. Man. Definitely need to talk to my doctor about my medications, because I feel like I am more tired now than I have been in a long time. And I feel like it just started whenever I switched to the Wellbutrin that I'm on right now. Let me update this info. I think I already have that game tagged on here. There we go. Go ahead and update that real quick. All right. From experience, other gamers say I should voice act because I can do like 6 accents. I'm not great with accents, but I can change my voice pretty well. Different pitches and different inflections. I mean, being able to do a lot of different accents is a really good trait to have. Case in point. Observe. I present to you Exhibit A. of having different accents to choose from. I mean, my accents are pretty sparse. I mean, you pretty much got just me, or me if I was raised a few miles more down south. Up in the mountains somewhere. Well, we're going to hop in. We're going to take a look and see what kind of daily missions we've got today. I've already completed the weekly, so I don't got to worry about that. Vietnamese to Bostonian to Arabian to British to Scottish to Southern to Mississippian. So a pretty good repertoire right there. Skyline Valley region. Okay. Photo mode, that's easy enough. Done. And then what else we got? And it is a double score boost weekend right now, so if you want to grind the battle pass, right now is a perfect time to do so. So, cripple the ghoul's leg, shouldn't be too hard. I don't know exactly where the Skyline Valley is, but that shouldn't be difficult either. Oh, man. I am so exhausted. For no good reason. Let's see. Fall 6 Skyline Valley. Okay. Okay, so it's the place where we fight the Lost. Got it. Hello, sir. I'm doing quite well. How about yourself? Well, I changed accent. I'm supposed to be Southern. Apologies. Someone redeem my Southern drawl. Redeem. So I gotta put the twang on it a little bit. You know what I mean? But we gotta go to Skyline Valley, which is down this way. Okay. And it says I just gotta take care of Exalted Drifter. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, I really don't have to try too hard with this accent. I mean, I just honestly just have to kind of change my tone a little bit. Because, I mean, when I'm really upset, that's just kind of how I talk anyway. When you live in the South, you try to, if you're like me and try to cover up your accent, it always tends to rise to the surface when somebody does something to really piss you off. And I do have another voice redeem for the debut of the new model. I know Floridian, so I speak gibberish. I mean, if I really want to go with it, I could go with the old Boomhauer right there and just throw them about that right there. There's one enemy in Skyline Valley. Let's see what else we got. I know one thing, this area feels kind of empty. MG-42 in West Virginia, must be World War II bring back. Very possible. Or it could be like a recreation, like a new model or something. I don't know. The lore for guns in this game is very, very skewed. Because in some weapons, the timeline kind of deviates, but in others, there's a lot of guns that still exist. Like, if you look back at Fallout 1 or 2, you'll see things like the Desert Eagle, the G3. West Virginia. Now, I don't think that was too appropriate. Oh, pre-war money. I'll take that. Sometimes need it for scrapping items. Vault-Tec supply order. Wonder why there are super mutants here. Couldn't be because of Vault-Tec. They would never do something that would cause an accident like that to happen. Never in a million years. Honestly, the fact that the super mutants are here, even here, is kind of odd. And Mirelurks, apparently? With classic any gun up to the early 2000s existed. Yeah. I wish they would have kept up with that, because I would love to have more realistic weapons in Fallout. Better than the monstrosity that is the Fallout 4 assault rifle. Whatever the same hell that thing is. Because I could tell you right now, it's not a gun. I don't know what it is. A blimp, maybe? Remote control blimp? But it's not a gun. I'm sorry. So now we will go to Summersville. Because this is the perfect place to complete one of those daily missions. I have to collect a bunch of burnt books. I already heard my rant at Bethesda is trying to soft reboot the series because the writing team is super lazy. I mean, you're not wrong, especially in the games. Fallout 4's writing was incredibly lazy. I saw a TikTok talking about Fallout, at least the series, that supposedly, now, I would take this with a grain of salt because it's coming from Todd Howard, but he said that the nuking of Shady Sands was not actually his idea. It was an idea from the directors of the show. Now, that very easily could just be him saving face with Fallout fans. But he also stated in the interview that there would be a little bit more focus on the NCR this coming season, which I hope is true. I really do like the NCR. I like them in New Vegas. That's usually the faction I pick. I think the main problem with Fallout as it stands now is they want to focus too hard on Fallout always being just a desolate wasteland. NCR Ranger somehow wearing custom-made power armor. Was that in the show? I don't remember that. But I mean, it's not the first time the NCR's worn power armor. They were wearing power armor in New Vegas. It might just be to what extent they have power armor in the show, but that's not anything new. I mean, when you go to Hoover Dam for one of the missions where you have to protect the president, yeah, it's instead of power armor, it's depowered armor. Wish the power armor would be the heavy trooper power armor fought in Vegas. I will say I do like the mechanics of power armor in Fallout 4. I think it looks cooler and it gives it more of the feel of power armor. Granted, the power source part of it seems kind of stupid to me, because why can that power generator power an entire factory or multiple factories for hundreds of years, but it can only power a piece of power armor for like a couple of days in game time? Yeah, I mean, that you can write off a lot of stupid stuff right there. Just poor writing. But I don't know. I used to be heated about stuff like this, but it's like, it's happened to so many IPs at this point. It's like, I don't honestly care that much anymore. And it might be a defeatist attitude, but I don't. It's just, it's not worth the effort of getting mad over something like that when there's nothing that I can do to change it. Not really much that the public can do to make those changes. You pretty much have to be the one at the top, and in those cases, even then you may not have full say in what goes on, especially if you have to deal with like investors and stockholders and all that garbage. Which is why, kids, you do not let stockholders hold majority stock over your company. If you create a company and it starts making incredible dividends and earnings, make sure you own the majority of stocks so you have the final say in all decisions being made. Not supporting it as something, or in my case, make my own IP. Yeah, I mean, you can't, and I feel like there are some companies that are trying to do that. Like there was that new Atomfall game that came out, which is basically just British Fallout. I haven't got to try it out yet, but I would like to eventually once I have some extra funds where I can actually get it. The only thing I won't like about it being set in Britain is that the gun choices will probably be few and far between, because Britain. Hit and miss from what I've heard. That's kind of what I've gotten from it too. I mean, it's just the sad fact that all of those big companies that we know, the people that made them great aren't there anymore. And they've either retired or they've, like you said, gone off to make new IPs. But, I mean, for the ones that are retired, I don't blame them, to be honest. I mean, basically all these big billionaire companies take their ideas and just either milk them to death or just completely change what you envision, so. Kind of feels like the only way that you can get only way you can get success in the gaming industry while still having a game that you actually enjoyed making is if you end up getting lucky and making a popular indie game. Like Repo. Skyrim's being milked to death. It's been milked to death at this point. The cow's dead. It keeps being brought back to life by a necromancer and milked for zombie cow milk. Yeah. I feel like Skyrim has been dead for a long time. Because, I mean, everything that they add to the games with all these remakes is not adding anything new. I mean, don't get me wrong, Skyrim is a great game. But I was able to play through it 2 times and I was done. I don't need to play it on a new console every 3 or 4 years. I know one theory that I have heard is that a lot of the Bethesda games going forward are more than likely going to be live service games, which I know a lot of people have mixed feelings about those kinds of games. Just because the way that most of them turn out, they just end up becoming just money farms for the developers. Which isn't entirely wrong, but what was that? Oh hey, I've seen this before. Let's just take a look and see what happens. And here we have the mighty Deathclaw fighting against a legendary hermit crab. As you can see, due to the radiation of the wasteland, the hermit crab has grown significantly in size to be a very strong opponent to the Deathclaw, who is derived from the chameleon. And it seems that the hermit crab has won the day. But as most things in nature, humanity tends to take the upper hand. He will be eating hearty for the harsh winters to come in the near future. Oh, sweet Jesus. How you doing? How's that for documentary narration? Did I do good? Do I get the Oscar? I'm no Morgan Freeman, but I think I could do it. Oh good, Colonel Getsy's. Love that. I find it weird that it always has the beavers as being hostile, but they don't actually attack you.
The rads will.
So it just has you focused to kill them for no reason. Let's see, so I need to cripple a ghoul leg, which I actually know a good place to do that. Here. And then I have to level up 1 level, which I can do super easy just playing the game regularly. So I'm not worried about doing that in my private server. Corn dogs, lamb chops, cheeseburgers, ice cream, etc. were at the commissioning today. That sounds pretty good. I already had ice cream today, so. But for lunch I had popcorn shrimp. So I was a Midwestern state, so no veggies. Well, that's no good. And like that, we have leveled up for the 2nd time today. Possibly a 3rd. Oh, very close, very close. I believe if we complete the other daily mission, we will unlock the next sector of the season pass. Ow. They always just sneak up on you. Alright. We've got all that done. We can go ahead and head back to the main menu. And go into the regular game. I really do wish they would... The only thing... Because I was saying earlier that they might do a live service of the upcoming Bethesda games. That has been the word around the street with Fallout and Elder Scrolls, is that basically the next games in the series are going to be the final games, but they are going to basically release the sequels to those games as DLC, which means Fallout is basically just going to become Fallout 76, but it's purely single player. And Elder Scrolls is basically going to become Elder Scrolls Online. Which is kind of why I'm thinking that information could be bogus, because why would they turn those into live service games when they already have the live service games? And all they would really be doing is alienating the people that already play these games, like me, as if they make it where... Now, granted, that's if they make it a live service where it also has multiplayer or co-op, because then that would basically make Elder Scrolls Online and Fallout 76 redundant. So, a ton of people, well, I say a ton of people will probably quit playing those games, but in all likelihood, the new games are going to be terrible, so they'll end up coming back to this game. Which is slightly less terrible. Let's say daily ops. Extra fast and freezing attacks. Any teams? Join a casual team to get that free XP. Checking out all these camps, see if anybody's got... Ow. Can you not? Where'd you even come from? Let's see. Range close enemies plus 10. 3. I'm confused. 9. Oh, that's why. Because I know you can get an armor selection where I can eventually get my onslaught to 30, which would basically turn most of my attacks with single fire weapons into one-shots or like a 2-shot maximum if I have the right build, which I think I do. I just don't have the right armor mods for it, is the only problem. Ow. Okay, who's shooting right now? Well, he's dead. Unfortunate. Uh-oh. This could be a problem. Think I got this. No. Settle down, children. There's plenty of flame of fuel for all of you. And you keep gifting me more. Thank you very much. Much appreciated. Let's see here. What are the conditions of my weapons? Oh, you are definitely in need of repairs. There we are. I was lucky enough to partake in a glitch of the raid on this game. And it looks very possible that there are people already doing that on this server as well. I think an M2 flamethrower from World War II would be more accurate than what Bethesda does. And I think, to be fair, I think they had that in Modern Warfare 3. Modern Warfare 3? I meant Fallout 3. I do believe that there was just a standard, like, maybe Vietnam-era flamethrower that you could have. Or I think that's just what the flamer was in those games, instead of being a completely new weapon. I'm not 100% sure on that. It's been a while since I've played Fallout 3, just because I like New Vegas better. But, actually, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and go into the raid, because I have a feeling that there are others in there as well. If so, it is a great way to get some free XP and get a lot of free legendaries, including 4-star legendaries. And an ad. So, control tab, you know what? Sure. I'm going to fast travel back out here. I have a feeling someone is going to try to do the glitch. Funny thing is I have not completed the raid of this game yet. And probably won't ever. Because you have to have at least a full 4-man team to beat the raid, and I probably won't find that in this game ever.
Attention citizens, nuclear strike imminent.
Where is that gonna go?
Exit the area at your earliest convenience.
Oh, that's messed up.
Thank you for your cooperation.
I'm going to join this event real quick and we'll come back. A rogue creature is terrifying Appalachia. Could it be the fabled sheep squatch? Only one way to find out.
Listen up, agents. If you're hearing this, that means I left unfinished business for you. That don't sit well with me. You've just initiated the recall process for a rogue Assaultron. A tough one. This thing's got a shield so strong, hardly anything will dent it. But I have just the solution for that. There are 3 pylons set up around the area. Starting one of these up makes you a conduit. Long story short, that means you're full of juice. Juice that pumps from you right into that robot shield. You'll need all 3 active to down it. Good luck. Hope you fare better than I did.
Juice. And we're back from the ad break. Looks like someone might be trying to start a raid. I saw an invite posted. Should we proceed? Or should we wait for others to join in? All great questions. Little time to decide. And actually, I don't really need any of the items from that event. We'll see if they know how to trigger the new raid glitch or not. Because if so, it is a great way to get some easy XP. Who's the team? Okay, Triggered Simp is the team leader. Got it. Following your lead. Oh, I didn't mean to enter solo. That was dumb. Why did I do that? Are they in here, or did I... Yep, I'll have to go back out and come back in. That's fine. And exit. Say the host of the squad has to go in first, or it won't let me go in unless I go by myself. And I'm not about to try. I kind of know the gist of the glitch, but I don't think I'm really capable enough to do it on my own. Because it's basically a glitch where activating the button for the raid boss
Alert. Unauthorized personnel
makes it where it resets. Oh, and they're already in here. Ouch. It's definitely not a fast process. Ow. Cool. And shield is gone now. Burn him! Hey, I got all my ammo back. Hot damn.
Warning, energy.
We can kill him before they close. Come on!
Take shelter.
Let's go. Nice. Let's go, baby. Scrap that. Scrap that. And we got a mod out of it. Nice. Yeah, if you do that glitch correctly, you can fight the boss for forever. I don't know if Triggered Simp actually did it right. Or if he's going forward. I guess we're going forward. I don't know how we fix that. Let's say, will they teleport to us when we start it? I don't really know. I have never gotten this far. Damn. It's one way to do it. Gatley707, thank you for the raid. Welcome in, raiders. My name is Rebel Red, your zombie cyborg dad tuber. And we're just having a chill Saturday playing some Fallout New Vegas. And this is my first, I guess, legit attempt at the raid in this game. Because so far all I've gotten in this is just doing the first raid boss, because there's currently a glitch in the game where you can keep fighting him over and over and just getting infinite meds, infinite armor, infinite mods, everything. I did that one day and I went from having like 1,000 caps to 20,000 just from all the stuff that I sold. So yeah. Might need to get on. Well, the team that I'm on right now, they're not trying the glitch, and I actually don't 100% know how to do it myself. I know it requires power armor, because I think there's a way that you can place it. So I think you have to have someone on a team. And as the fight is starting, you basically have to leave the team and come back. And when you do that, I think the gist of it is that it still acts like the boss fight never started. So you just keep pressing the button that summons the boss over and over, and basically you can just keep fighting him and getting the rewards until you close out the game. Because I know one day I did it for literally 3 hours. And no telling how many times I beat that boss. But anyway, how was your stream? I hope it was good. Were you playing Fallout 76, or what were you playing? Uh-oh, what's happening? Ah! Hey, you leave that alone. Protect the drill! Nope. Okay, I thought that was a... thought that mole miner was actually alive. Wizard 101, Fallout Nut, so I had to raid. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you. Yep, I love Fallout. I know that a lot of people have mixed opinions about Fallout right now, especially with the show. But, like, for me personally, I just kind of take the show for what it is just... I don't really take the show that seriously as, like, lore, even though they say it's lore. To me, personally, the lore of the games is whatever you make it to be. You were playing Fallout Funny. Yeah, that's honestly kind of how I got my start in streaming, was from Fallout. It was basically just Fallout and tactical games, to be honest. I still play a lot of those. Drop some lore that made some things in main story make sense. I know one thing that a lot of people are upset about is it seems like they're just getting rid of the NCR, but I'm not so sure about that. I'm not really sure what the goal of this mission is. Left a lot open in it, so kind of hard to assume things. I know that Todd Howard confirmed that, because the biggest reason that people think that they wiped out the NCR or made New Vegas not canon is that Shady Sands was destroyed before New Vegas timeline. But a lot of people pointed out, including Todd, that that timeline that's mentioned in the show from the chalkboard shows the Shady Sands disappearing after the last date that's mentioned, which implied that it literally just happened. So, and he did basically confirm that Shady Sands getting destroyed happens just after the events of New Vegas. So, I would say that more than likely they're going to make it that whatever the ending, whatever the canon ending to New Vegas is basically what leads to Shady Sands getting destroyed. Well, I have no idea what we're supposed to do here. And one of our teammates left. Oh, it was the party leader. Cool. Well, that's fun. I do love reading up on Fallout lore, though. I have several channels that I frequent just so that I can catch up on the lore. Oh wait, I'm the party leader now? What? How'd that happen? Okay.
Low fuel, drilling suspended. Please add fuel to resume operation.
Why did you start it back up again? Why did you do that? I know nothing about this raid to know how it actually is supposed to work. I'm assuming we're supposed to find fuel for the thing. Oh my god. I don't think I'm supposed to fight you. Oh, I'm dead. Well. You know what? I'm just gonna leave. Or I don't know. I don't know. I feel like before I do this raid, one, I need an actual team to run this with that I can communicate with, and two, actually read up on how the raid mechanics work in this game. I know there's supposed to be possibly a new raid coming out soon, along with a new fishing update, which should be interesting. And apparently they've also leaked that you're going to be able to play as Super Mutants at some point as a new class. And from what I've seen of that, it's going to definitely be interesting. Because I think I saw part of becoming a super mutant is you take... It basically sets all of your stats to... They cannot go above 5, except for, I think, strength and endurance. So everything is set to the base 5 skill points that you can place in it. But then you get bonuses to... melee damage and a bunch of other different things. You can bet your sweet Bippy I'm going to take them drugs. I'm not taking the spoiled vegetables though. Staff terminal? Nah. I ain't the one that's going to start it. Do I look like I'm somebody who knows what they're doing? Wait, have I not leveled up yet? Apparently not. How much do I have left before I level up? Stats. Ooh, I'm quite a ways away, actually. Maybe I should reset that. Something I can do a little bit quicker. I've got 2 free rerolls, so why not? Okay, yeah, that's way easier. we can try and do this. So, I think the strategy is that 2 people defend the drill while the other 2 get fuel. Well, teammate left, that's cool. Why did you... Bruh. Why did you start it already? I don't guess it actually starts until... Did they leave to go to that event? No, they went to someone's camp?
Low fuel, drilling suspended. Please add fuel to
Bruh.
resume operation.
Ow. I need to change my stats. There we go. Need the +4. Nope. I don't like that I don't get any ammo back from doing this. Am I not even getting XP for fighting these guys? Really? That's kind of BS. I'm sorry?
Caution. Increased hostile presence detected.
Oh, lovely. No! Frickin' explosive mole rats. Man, you guys are tough. And very aggressive. Get off of that. You want to do something? Alright, man. Ow! See you later. Holy cow, this is going to take forever. Is it literally just the 2 of us doing this? Where the heck is our team at? much.
Warning. Hostile presence approaching critical level.
No. Ow. Burn. Oh, man. Uh-oh. Here they come. Oh, I died. You know what? Just leave the raid. I'm done. I'm done with that. We're done. I'm not trying to two-man this raid. It's not happening. You're not gonna rock and roll no more. Don't talk back. Yep, that's fair. I'm just gonna go ahead. Oh, you know what? Is that event still going? Sure is. Let's go to that. Oh, the music of Fallout. Yeah, I made a playlist that's all either songs from Fallout or it's songs that are kind of set in that same time period.
Excuse me, Bill.
Yes, dear. Yeah, the dog is breakdancing on the cat bed. That's totally what she's doing. Nothing else. Don't know if you were able to catch that conversation, but apparently... So we have a new dog. Her name is Bella, and she is... We're not really sure what she is. She's a mix of a terrier and one or two other dogs. We got her from a shelter, so we're not really sure, but apparently she was humping the cat's cat bed. And of course our child is like, what's she doing? And my wife's like, don't worry about what she's doing. And he's like, she's breakdancing. Yeah. Yep. Yes, sweet summer child. She's breakdancing. Have free XP. Free XP. Free XP. Free XP. Can't remember how many I've done. Alright. I do have friendly fire. Take that off, put on friendly fire. Keep these guys alive. Or scrap collector, he's... Or scrubber. Alright, cool. never really felt a need for a healer in this game, but for when it comes to protecting NPCs, it's good to have a backup plan. You can heal them with your flamer if you have that perk for healing teammates with flame weapons. Hey, alien disintegrator. That's different. Not used to getting that as a reward. Well, let's up the ante a little bit. Where's the rest of my aid? We got... No, I've got Mentats. The screen will quit shaking. 2,000 XP per kill? Yes, sir. You'll love to see it. Oh, another raid. Hey, Stunblane. Welcome. Thank you for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. Hey, everybody. I'm Rebel, your zombie cyborg VTuber. We're just chilling, just goofing around in Fallout 76. Hope you had a good one, Stumbling. What were you playing? Uh-oh. What? No. You stay down there. Thank you. Almost to level 70 on the battle pass. Nearly there. This event is just always pure chaos. Kind of love it, to be honest. Oh, am I over encumbered? I sure am. I picked up too much stuff. Picking up even more stuff. Grinding for some new armor and Monster Hunter. Nice. I've only played a couple of the Monster Hunter games. I feel like I should give them another try. I always felt like the ones I played just felt like too much of a grind. I don't know if the new games are different. And I know it's ironic talking about a grind while I'm playing Fallout 76, but I've got nostalgia with the Fallout franchise, so it's different. Yeah, level 70. We've got some more cosmetics to unlock before he's like mean. We talking the enemies or just terrible rolls? Oh, yeah. Yep, I know how that goes.
See, the trick to scavenging is to scavenge where no one else will.
I've only played one game where I have been
If you can pull your
lucky with, like, good rolls, and that is, Zenless. Because so far, I've been able to unlock every character that's come out. But I'm kind of worried that that's not going to happen next time, because... Or I might not roll for the next character that comes out. Because it's kind of been teased that we're going to get an S-Star Billy character soon.
pick up one more box of raw
And
stuff.
Billy is one of my favorite characters in that game.
Hey,
So I might just save up as much of the pulls as I can to rank him up. One thing I do like about Zenless is the pull system does have, of course it has your soft pity.
5 pounds of aluminum, 10 pounds of steel.
I do like that for their rolls you are guaranteed to get the character if at least at the second hard pity, because you're guaranteed an S tier character in the game at 80 pulls, but the first 80 pull is a 50-50 for the banner character.
All this destruction.
But then
How could that war possibly
after
be
that, the
avoided?
next hard pity is guaranteed to be that character.
Try
So
not
no
to
matter
show
what,
yourself.
every second S tier pull is going to be that character. So if you save up enough for a character that you really, really want,
One person's
you
junk
could
is another's
pretty
gold.
easily get it to like max rank.
May not be
Had
pretty,
okay
but
Zenless
Old
luck.
Mountain has a lot to offer.
I will say I probably have better luck just because I'm not completely free to play. I do get the
Anybody can hoard tin
I do
cans.
pay for the membership, the monthly membership, and then I get the battle pass every time. So probably on average spending about 15 a month on it. One time I got the S rank banner character back to back. That's pretty lucky.
All this
The only time I have bad luck, I have lost a 50-50 a few times. But I've always ended up being lucky and having enough pulls that I get the character the next time. I've pulled 2 characters several times, and it drives me crazy. I have gotten Nekomata 3 times, and I think I've gotten Soldier 11 3 times too, which is fine. I like Soldier 11. I don't really like using Nekomata. 1, her character's kind of annoying, and 2, I like the other members of Cunning Hairs better than her, but they really want you to play Soldier. Yeah, that's what it feels like. They really want me to have a
Scavenge at the best,
fire
and
team,
starve at the
apparently.
worst.
I would honestly run a pure physical team if they've come out with a good stun character, which they did recently come out with, gosh, what is her name? The new furry character. The only way I can remember. She is a physical stunner, but she's an A rank. So,
Sure, we take things, but we're cleaning
Close
up this
enough.
as well.
Pulchra, that's what it is. I do have enough characters to where I could have a full gun team, because I did get Trigger from the new
Anybody can
pull.
hoard tin cans.
So I could run a team with her as a stun, and then only thing is there's no gun characters other than her that aren't just pure attack characters. So I could run her, Juyin, and Billy and have a full ranged team. Or I could run,
Scavenge
I'm
the
having a
best
terrible
or
time
sword at the
remembering
rest.
names for a lot of these characters. The Archer character. Oh yeah, I unlocked new things. What did we get? Alright, we got some atoms. So free money. Nuclear powered jetpack. Free flare, sure. Okay. What's going on? Hmm.
You should make good use of it.
Okay, apparently it did not like me trying to go to another page while I was unlocking something. I mean, honestly, everything else in the battle pass of this season, I'm really not all that interested in. I do want to get this title card, though. Because then I could have my character titled literally be Rebel Zombie. Which would be perfect. But everything else is kind of meh. I get it's supposed to be all ghoul themed, but I feel like they could have done a little bit more with it. I do like the Merc Charmer outfit because it is a reference to Fallout 3 and New Vegas, because those were outfits you could have in those games. It's literally a recreation of those outfits. So that's cool. I almost never use this outfit. Out of those Raider outfits, I always pick the Merc one, which they do have that in this game too.
Radix a day keeps the ghouls away.
I tend to run my, what I like to call my Free States Ranger. Because ever since this game came out, the Free States have been my favorite faction. Because they're basically just... They're basically me if I lived in the Fallout universe. They're just people that didn't trust the government and said, screw the government and Vault-Tec, I'm going to make my own vault with blackjack. Let's see. I'm still overencumbered. I'm not. But I do have a crap ton of stuff.
One more box of raw asbestos. I'm going to lose my mind.
1, 2.
Try not to slip on the sludge piles.
Glowing meat. Okay. One challenge left, and I need to find some alcohol.
Coffee's always handy. You new here?
Hey, Azzy. Welcome in. Oh, I didn't even realize what time it was. So that must... I'll need to be close to ending in about probably 15 minutes. Hey, don't be calling me old man.
One person's junk isn't...
Just woke up like 40 minutes ago. What are you doing waking up at 3 o'clock? I can't say a whole lot, but I don't think I've ever overslept that hard. Oh. Oh, really? Listen to me judging you right now. Can you feel it? Can you feel the judgment? Didn't get drunk? Okay. I'm gonna believe you. For now. Okay. As long as you did it in moderation. I personally don't drink anymore. I used to. Honestly, it was more for Ruby than for me, because she dealt with a lot of alcohol problems from her family, so out of respect, I stopped when we got married. So, go shopping today, so you had to.
There's something potentially interesting.
Anything for you?
Oh, you're the best. And not.
Oh, wait, that was not a question. That was a statement. I may or may not have just accidentally flirted with a companion. What's it? Toxic goo. I'm so confused. I have that here. So I should have a dog companion that should have spawned. Oh, hold on. Free beer. It's just what I needed. I did it. I can't tell if the reason the dog isn't spawning is because of the where I have the doghouse placed, or if it's glitched. I don't know. Could be either or. I've got this place just absolutely filled to the brim with just stuff. Which we call a mystery machine. I wonder how many times I can use that. Or if there's actually a limit. Might not be. I've never actually tried to use it. Because I tend to find Nuka-Cola's pretty easy in this game. Never really had a need to spin the caps on them.
I just can't shake these nightmares. Floating in space forever.
Okay.
Just why?
Let's see. Let's have a look. Is that what it was? Maybe? Hopefully? I have no idea. There we go. Nice little shopping area right there. That'll work. Doghouse in a good spot. Hopefully. Maybe the doggo will spawn now. Where'd the dog? I want to pet that dog. See some enemies that way. I have a feeling the reason that that is not placing.
I just can't shake these nightmares. Living in space forever.
I have a feeling that's why he's not spawning. Because there's got to be a place for him to dig. Maybe. We'll see. And then I've got this thing that's apparently spawns cigarettes and potentially has a chance to spawn chems. Should I set this? We'll set it by the bathroom. That'll work. There we go. Where's the dog? Yeah.
Drilling system performing at optimal levels.
We're decorating today. I hate that. Let's put it in the bathroom. Is that too far away? What? It's a little too far away. There we go.
All priority minerals will be collected.
Stairs, doors, crafting. They should really come out with some new blueprints for some of these crafting items. We've had this same punch card machine since the game came out. I'd like to have something a little different. I don't know what it could be. Because some of the different camps, or different theming of camps, it doesn't really fit in very well. Like,
I just can't shake these nightmares.
this camp, I have it set to be like kind of a Free States camp.
Just why?
And Free States was not want anything to do with Vault-Tec. So it seems kind of weird that you would have their punch card machine. But it's the only way you can change your special stats, so you have to have it. Some generators, power connectors. Let's see, what food do I have? Do I have any food? I do not. I have the ability to make food. Yes, sir. Yeah. Little man wants me to take him to the library after stream, so I guess that's what I will do. Still upset that I haven't run into my dog yet. I want to pet that dog.
It's almost unbelievable what's happened here.
I wonder if I can... No, I'm not even gonna ask because I already know the answer's probably no. But I was kind of wondering if I could place my dog companion in a shelter or not. I doubt it. Yeah, I figured as much. Appliances. What would hurt to have these in here? Maybe we'll put that downstairs. There we go. Got a washer and dryer there. Let's see. Another alarm clock, got a radio. Lockers. Car bed. Right. one way to place that. Hmm. Wish I had some more pristine stuff. It would be nice.
I wish you a very happy insert celebration reason.
Moss of West Virginia mounting board, huh?
I have finished.
Hmm. I think this is a reference to the TV show, actually. Near the very beginning. I could go in here if I haven't already placed some. Probably have, though. Oh, no. Okay, that works. Oh, can I place them in there? I can. What the? Okay. Today, Junior. There we go. Then we'll put this board game on top of that one, and then this one on top of that one, and then this one on top of that one. There. Cool. Hmm. Maybe. It's a lot of stuff I forgot I even had. Industrial chalkboard.
wish I had taste buds.
Okay. Is there just like a school desk in here? Maybe it'll be under tables. That's not gonna work. Nope. 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 Come on. Not like a kid's school desk. Oh. Maybe. That might be the best option. So we'll put that right we'll put that right there. Oh, quite lined up there. I'm trying to set this up like it would be a family of free staters that are still trying to educate their child that's been with them in the vault. Get a good desk chair. There we go. That'll work. I don't know. I feel like maybe a rolling chair is not the best idea. That might be better. There we go. Perfect. And with the small amount of decorating that I've done, that is probably going to be the stream for me. We'll go ahead, see who we can raid, and then probably take little man to the library. So let's see who is on right now. No, not quite. I think I'm gonna go ahead and send everybody Joey's way. Joey Taro, who is a Cyborg VTuber. He's been stopping in my channels every now and then for the past few days. And been pretty chill, and we've collabed in the past. So, help him out. We'll send everybody his way. Go ahead and start the stream, or the raid. Hope everybody enjoyed the stream. If you did, be sure to follow if you're not already. I stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 8 p.m. Central, and then at 1 p.m. Central on Saturday. Next week, I will not be streaming on Thursday, but I will be joining Willu for his comeback to streaming that day. And he will be giving me some lessons on Marvel Rivals, so hopefully that I can have some better gameplay for you guys. But then I'll be back Saturday. But after that, I am going to be taking a break from streams so that I can make sure everything is ready for the debut of the new model for you guys. So I will be playing something every day that I would normally stream next week. But after that, I will not be streaming again until the debut. But I'll be sure to put stuff out there for you guys to see. But you guys are awesome as always. I'll talk to you later. Deuces.